Well, you can do a lot. You can spread the word about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So next time you're sitting next to someone and mention the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, when they have this glazed over look about what's that about, what country are we talking about, you'll be able to tell them what it's about. You can attend our national events. Again, the first one's in Winnipeg, just around the corner. You can volunteer at the national events. Anyone can volunteer. There's a volunteer application. We need volunteers in the statement gathering department. We need volunteers to help move survivors from hotels to the site. We need volunteers to help with the elders. There's a whole roster of needs for volunteers. You can organize your community event and ask the TRC to support that community event. If you're an artist, you can, there's currently right now a call for proposals from artists to depict what you see reconciliation to be. If you're a survivor, to show us in your artistic ways of what your experiences were in the Indian residential schools. If you're a researcher, you can conduct research with the TRC. You can we'll be posting our research agenda and the areas of interest that the TRC has. One of the things of interest for the Urban Alliance is the Commission's really interested in knowing how do we convince Canadians that this is a shared history? How do we convince all Canadians and newcomers why you should participate in reconciliation? And that's something that they're very interested in. Visit our website often. It's updated. We have a brand new website. We have a Facebook page, if you're on Facebook. Come see us on Facebook. And send us your thoughts and ideas on what it means, what reconciliation means to you, what reconciliation means in your culture, and what you think we can do to further the efforts of reconciliation in Canada. And so that's the TRC in a nutshell. And again, I just want to say what wonderful work you've done over the years, and I appreciate you asking me to speak with you today.
So, but I'm sure that the communities have to do that at some point to address that, in a sense, we're not to blame. This was done to us. To come to that reckoning. How is that process working?
Maybe I'll stand because I have lights in my eye.
It's quite hear the question.
Which I can sound right. The question was how, when I said that reconciliation, it's not about reconciling with ourselves, but that we have to, and the question was, but there must be a component of reconciliation with ourselves because we have to accept that we're not to blame. When we look at our community events that have taken place and that we're hoping to take place, those are, when we look in the remote communities and the reserve communities, there is some reconciliation steps that need to take place within the communities, because there are people that didn't go to residential school, and there are people that went to residential school, and there's that, well, you went and I didn't go, or you didn't go, and so you're not really an Indian, and you haven't suffered like I've suffered. And then there was the commissioners speak about this a lot because it hasn't been written about, but it's been coming out that there was abuse in the schools from students against other students because of the learned behavior. And so there's that has taken place in the communities. And so there is that reconciliation that also needs to take place in the community. But yes, absolutely, I think there is a need for community members to know that this wasn't our fault. I mean, people were told that for so many years. And so, yes, absolutely, that's part of, I agree, is part of the reconciliation process.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Kimberly. My question is, notwithstanding the injustices that have been done to Aboriginal communities in Canada, has there been any thought of making linkages with other groups who have been marginalized and have had injustices, new Canadians from past, in order to bring this whole aspect of injustice to the fore on a national level?
The chair, Justice Sinclair, was recently at the United Nations in New York, and he announced when he got back and invited everyone from other Truth and Reconciliation Commissions around the world to come to Canada to have a conference for exactly that purpose.
I was there.
Oh, yes, you can speak to that. So it's, I think he committed to within the next year. Was that what he said?
Yeah, in the next year, and actually one of the reports I was going to talk about in my 10-minute speech has to do with that. There was a report that was released about Christian indoctrination. It's the first from the American Indian Law Institute. And so I think at the United Nations, it's the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues that happens. It's the 9th session this year. There was a groundbreaking gathering, as Kim mentioned, of different Indigenous nations who have, similar to New Zealand and Australia with their stolen generations, also who have had apologies where there's been minimal action afterwards. And I also just wanted to say to your question, that's partially why the Aboriginal Healing Foundation was established but isn't funded anymore. So that's important to think about.
Sharon Simpson.
Just quickly, and Jessica spoke, so it might partially answer my curiosity, and that was about how are young people engaged in this process who might, given that the last school was closed only in '96, but some young people who have families who have this experience, but themselves has probably been sort of encapsulated in a different sort of reality. How do they understand or is connected to the truth and reconciliation that's going on?
Well, they're absolutely part of the commission. They're part of the reconciliation process, and we're gathering statements from youth. We're gathering statements from the grandchildren of the survivor that went to the school, and from the children of the children of the children. The commission is working on, we have our survivors committee is looking at how to engage youth in the process. We have the whole engagement strategy of the commission, and the youth are the #1 thing that we talk about, and thus Facebook and Twitter and things like that, and how to bring them in to the process and get them interested in the reconciliation, and share with us their ideas of how this can happen. And so when we just look at the first national event, and you look at the agenda, there are various tents that are being set up, and there's a lot of activity and information and activities that are geared for younger community members to engage them in the process.
I'll take 2 more quick questions on behalf of Paul Bradley.
This is a very quick question. Has the session for the Toronto area been scheduled yet? You said something's coming up in Winnipeg. Is there something in Toronto scheduled yet?
It's a secret where all the national events are going to take place. They haven't been set. The first one's in Winnipeg. We do know the second one is in Nunavut, and that will be next summer. After that, it's radio silence to me. I'm sure someone knows, but it's not public information.
Just follow the website and it'll be on there
That's
at some
right.
point.
Yeah.
One last question, gentlemen.
Question, you see in the beginning, most of Canadians they don't know anything what happening in school. What do you think it can be done, like to teach people like what happened? They say the education system. They say like, can they make any curriculum like, to teach the young kid or university student?
Absolutely, and that's been recommended over the years. RCAP recommended curriculum changes. One of the things, interestingly enough, because AVGO sent me a link to the newcomer guide, the new newcomer guide that they created, and showed it to me because in my work I haven't been to it. And there's literally one sentence about Indian residential schools. It just says, oh, by the way, we put some Indians in schools and we apologize. And that's the extent of what we're teaching people that are new to Canada about the legacy of the schools. And then, the Toronto District School Board, because I've worked with the Aboriginal Advisory Committee over the years, have tried to implement curriculum and educate, but it's splattered all around. It's not consistent. and it's not really mandated from the Ministry of Education, but I think curriculum change. I did a speech at Ryerson a couple of years ago and talked about residential schools, and nobody, like, I was just shocked at the level of, I don't want to say ignorance, but not knowing about what happened. University educated students not knowing.
Okay, so now you know, as the young people like to say.